In the Auditor General's report that we have, there's an issue about cables in the vessel being too short. The turnaround director, when he was appointed, unearthed this issue. And I want to ask you for your views on that. It says, can I just share this with you? The process identified that some of the 1,400 cables that FML had installed at the end of 2018 are too short to reach the required equipment. What do you say to that? How could that possibly come about if design and construction was proceeding correctly?
I know exactly how it came about, and it's part 4 of what I said about the way that this was managed when the yard was nationalised. When the yard was nationalised, they put in Tim Hare on the day that it was, in fact, on the day that it went into administration. Tim Hare was managing it on behalf of the government. He immediately dismissed most of the senior management team, and many of the key managers below that level left. They were wiped out. They had to sign NDAs, which is why I've not got more people with me today, because they are gagged and they can't get freedom from that, so they can't speak. But they were wiped out, and those were the people who were intimately involved with every part of the ship construction. We also had a very effective management system in there, and we have evidence of Lloyd's, CMAL, CalMac, BAE systems giving us marks that are excellent for the systems we have. We've got evidence of it, but we were told that what the Tim Hare did was he wiped out all the systems we had, because there was no big enterprise planning system, integrated enterprise planning. Each individual there had their element of the plan, the system that they ran. There were meetings twice a day in what we called a war room, where everyone was together and they updated every aspect of the progress in that ship on a day-by-day basis. That was wiped out, all of those systems. I'm told there was no planning meeting held for 6 months after Tim Hare went in. He also sacked the design consultants that we had engaged, called Vera Navis, who were working in all the design work in the background supporting our design team. So what was wiped out was all the people that knew what was going on, all the systems that controlled it, and the design people that were behind it. There was a black hole there, and for 6 months, nobody knew what was going on in that yard. They then brought in a new design team, and I think it's been changed twice since then. The design team had nothing to go on, so they have to go into the ships and say, what do we have here, and start building it up from where it is. What's the next thing we should do? Okay. We know that they have moved control panels, they have moved pumps, they have moved equipment. If you move them and there was a cable already in place to go to them, it might not reach where they've been moved to, and that's what's happened. That's the fact. Those are the facts of what's happened. And you notice that Tim Hare left this until, what was it, a week before he left, to announce that this problem. These cables were installed by Kongsberg earlier on. They are a very professional outfit. They had the design and install contract to put those cables in based on the design we had for where equipment was and where the control panels were, and that's what they did. These are not people that make those kind of mistakes.
So, for the avoidance of doubt, you're saying that the cables that were installed, they weren't short. It was because equipment and they were short, right, from where they moved the equipment to. But you know, this is the crux of something that's been happening all along. Design changes. Read what Van Beek
said when he was in and he was observing, he tried to freeze the changes. He said the level of changes he couldn't, he's never seen before. So if you keep making changes and moving things, then it has consequences on stuff that's already been done before. And that's continued to happen. Now, you will read now of lots of, in fact, since the government took over, remedial work. That's not all remedial work. What you get, you're allowed in these contracts is owner observations. Now, an owner observation is the owner, i.e. Seamal, coming back and saying, we would like to change that. Now, probably 70% of what they asked, we said no, because it wasn't something that was necessary. We were designing the vessel and we knocked it back. They're now getting a free hand in the yard to make all the changes, the nice to have things that they want and the changes they want to make, and they're being called remedial work. They're not remedial work. If it was properly managed, you would assess whether it should be done. Is it a necessity or is it a nice to have? Does it have an impact on other things that you've already done? You would examine all that, and we did that in the past, and there'll be a record of how many owners' observations they were called at that time. They're now called remedial work. So that's the crux of the problem, is the constant changes, and they're still happening.
Mm-hmm. Just let me finish this, if I may, Mr McColl. So what you said quite clearly is that the cables weren't short. It was because equipment had been moved around that caused the cables to therefore not be able to reach that equipment because it had all been moved. They
weren't short for the design and the placing that we had for the control panels and other equipment. We know there's equipment being moved about. We know control panels have been moved.
Okay.